The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to the Keefer and Kurre. He is Kip Keefer on the left side. I'm Tony Kurre. Of course, you can check out our show on TKR, Tony Kurre Radio. Our show airs at least 5 days a week. And, of course, when I'm on the show, sometimes we may play it a few more times than that, because we got to take care of the boss. We got to take care of the Kipsters down there.
The guy whose name's on the door got to get top billing.
Exactly. We always like to talk about things that obviously are somewhat of a common denominator for you and I, and I like to talk a lot about music. We did that last week, but I wanted to share a quick little story with you. So my dad was kind of a thrifty kind of guy. Was not prudish. I mean, he went to Vegas with my mother every year, and he liked to send, but he was a newspaper distributor. You know, I mean, he was providing for a family of 6 by throwing newspapers out his window for 123 miles a night. He did it for 37 years, never missed a day. And so I remember when I was like 12 or 13, and my bicycle, I had a 10-speed bicycle, and I had pounded my bicycle up pretty good. I mean, I had bent the rims. We were jumping things, and you don't do that with a 10-speed, right? But I did. And I was on my bike, man. I mean, every day I was on my bike. The minute I got off the school bus, I was on my bike, and I was listening to Marty and Joe on Cincinnati radio, and listening to my Cincinnati Reds, and listening to WSAI and doing their top 40. I mean, I would sit there and I had a little radio on my bicycle. I used to ride my bike, I mean, I swear, 20 or 30 miles a day. So something was wrong with my rims, and it was kind of running out. My brakes were too tight, this, that, and the other. I went to my dad. I said, hey, Dad, I says, you think you can get my bicycle fixed? And so we took it up to the corner, and he comes down. And he goes, I can't help you, son. I said, it's going to be like $65.
Oh,
he said, and this was what, 19, let's see, it was 66. So 1980, 1978, something like that.
So that's like $600 today.
Yeah. And I said, I get it, Dad. It's fine. And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I know you love your bike and you got to take care of it, blah, blah, blah. Well, later that afternoon, my dad is skipping around the house like he just won the lottery, because he has some guy who could not pay his bill, his newspaper bill, decided to pay my dad in a side of beef.
Wow.
He worked at a butcher place down the street down in Mason, Ohio, where they used to do butchering stuff like that, and the cows would come right out of the thing, and this guy cut off a half a cow and just stuck in the back of his car and said, "Here, Dick, can I just give this to you to take care of my thing?" And my dad was like, "Hell yeah!" So we had a side of beef. That night he went out and bought a freezer. I'll never forget it. It was $699. I remember being at Sears with my dad. My dad's like, you know what? We've got at least $1,000 worth of meat here, so we're going to have to go spend $699 to get a freezer to make sure it's good. We're going to be eating steak for the rest of our lives. And I was like, okay. And I was honored, as my son, as his son, to be asked to go. Hey, boy, you want to go with me? That was something big. By the way, you kids, when your dad asked you to go to the hardware store with you, or hey, I want to run up to the corner and get you go to the bank or something, you want to go with me? That was really, really special. That was really special when your dad.
For my dad, it was taking me to the track, but that's another story.
Hey, hell yeah, that's the coolest dad out there, right?
Yeah.
So, but I remember thinking to myself, son of a gun, man, my bicycle's $55-$60, and my dad's dropping $699 on a freezer. And I was trying to figure out where the money's coming from. And I was like, and so I'm 12 years old. I would never, like these kids now would go, Dad, I thought you said you didn't have no money. Now you just bought a freezer. I would never say it to my dad, because it was not my money. It was your dad. You're just happy. And you're happy to be eating steak for the next 3 or 4 months. But
definitely.
Kids, you never question your dad on money. You never asked him, if he said you're broke, you're broke. And you never question him on that. Now kids are like, oh, hey, I just saw you go out and spend $150 on dinner last night. I guess you can't take care of my school. So now we're going to fast forward to the year 2025 and college football. I want you to explain this to me, because maybe you're smarter than I am. Maybe you know more about the money aspect, about the economics of college football. I just want to tell you where we're at here on this day, January 13th, 2025. We have a special site. It's called Boardroom. You ever heard of Boardroom? It's a site that was created by Kevin Garnett. And
okay.
It's in cahoots with CNBC. And they reported yesterday that Ohio State has now topped the rankings for the most valuable college athletic programs. Would you want to take a guess what they say Ohio State's worth? This is based off all their money they bring in and what they're doing right now in college football and what they're worth. You know, like the Dallas Cowboys are worth $16 billion. What do you think? What do you think Ohio State's worth right now?
It's got to be reaching not quite that level, but I would say for maybe anywhere from $7.5 to $10 billion level.
Okay, it's $1.32 billion.
Okay, so I'm overstating.
No, I appreciate,
but it's a college, and it's not a professional sport. So I should have tempered that expectation.
Appreciate the fact that you would shoot that high. I love that about you. Texas second, A&M is always in the money. They don't win squat, but they're number 3 right now, $1.26 billion. Michigan, $1.06 billion. And then Alabama brought in $979 million, or they're worth $979 million. And so I'm looking at this, and of course, I've done enough shows with Mark Ingram, who's the athletic director for the UAB Blazers. And he's like, what people don't realize is, by the way, Ohio State just made $2.5 million for themselves by winning that football game this past week. They're making money now every time they win a football game, okay?
Yep.
And there's a bigger piece of that pie. I think it's like $42 million that goes in the bowl pie, where every team is given a certain amount of money for the bowls they go in. So the more bowls you're in, the more money you get, and then that money split throughout the entire network of teams, the entire, and in some cases, I think the team that actually is going to the bowl, they may get 2 shares, and then the rest of the shares are given out. Regardless, it's worth $42 million, something like that. Okay, so I'm thinking about these numbers. I'll go. By the way, Notre Dame, who is not in a conference, got $20 million for winning that football game the other night. $20 million just for winning that game and now playing in a national title game. If they win that game, I think it's like another $35 million because they're not in a
right.
They're not in an established conference. So that's crazy money. So I'm thinking, I got all these money things. I'm thinking, man, this sounds like, and I keep hearing this thing that like only 6 or 7 schools in all of college football actually make money. Like they're actually in the black. Like this is a revenue, right? So Ohio State made $263 million in revenue in 2023. Okay. They made like $59 million from season tickets. They made like $39 million from alcohol. That is revenue. Okay. That's money that goes in, revenue. It's not the net. It's not what they made. It's not a plus or minus thing. It's the revenue they brought into and that was based off this $1 billion number is what they're worth based on what their revenue is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm looking around a little bit, and I see this Carson Beck story. And I'm thinking, Carson Beck is going to do what? Now, you know this story, right? He's going to go. He's going to become a hurricane. And and how much is he getting paid?
$4 million a year for this 1 year.
$4 million for 1 year.
Yep.
Quint Ewers, his price tag is $6 million. I'm being told that he can go now. He was going to more likely go into the NFL draft. He has not said yay or nay yet, though, but they've already moved on to Archie Manning at Texas. So it looks like Quint ain't got a pot to piss in if he wants to go play for Texas again. So he'd have to go somewhere else. But I'm understanding that he's going to get $6 million. That's the number. I don't know where they come up with these numbers, but I'm being told that he could go right now and transfer to a school, and they will pay him $6 million for 1 year to play college football. And then he can go off into the National Football League. The funny thing is the National Football League, because of their pay structure, pays somewhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million to a rookie quarterback. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a $300 million guy. It doesn't matter if he's the greatest quarterback. You only make your money on your second contract. That's why you have all these guys that sit out because they sign this 3 or 4 year deal. They're not, that's why you see these guys, they have second and third years that are unbelievable. And you're like, wait a minute, he's making $900,000 and a guy across the street's throwing 10 touchdowns and 10 picks and he's making $14 million. How's that possible? It's because the National Football League and their pay structure. So you could I can sit there and say, where are you going to go in the draft? And Nick Saban was great at this. If you go to 15th, I can tell you exactly what you're going to make. And if you go to 12th, I can tell you exactly what you're going to make, which I kind of like. So I got all these money questions, and my head's gonna explode, Kip. I don't know what I need you to sit me down, put some cucumbers on my eyes, tell me to lay down, and tell me what in the hell is going on. Is there a lot of money out there that we don't know about? Am I crazy for Quint Ewers? Why in the hell are you not playing another year of college football for $6 million? Why?
Yeah. Makes no sense.
I know you love the game, and I know you want to spend the rest of your life in the game. Good chances are you're going to be done by the time you're 30 and you're 21, 22. You got about an 8 or 9 year window. Go make your $6 million and play college. And why in the world would you even consider going back to the National Football League? Not unless you're thinking to yourself, okay, I want to make big bucks and I'm going to be a year closer to making those big bucks. But why not make $6 million? I don't understand it. And I don't understand where the money's coming from. And everyone keeps telling me that college football and college sports is broke and they can't afford this NIL thing. And I see these numbers that are just outrageous, millions, billions. I mean, it's just a matter of time before we're talking the T word, the trillions. It's just a matter of time. So can you sit me down?
Well, let me start with Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is represented by a very ambitious agent, just like you see Scott Boros representing all kinds of players in professional sports. The $6 million, Tony, is not an offer from a school at this point. That is the price tag that whoever his agent has established, where Quinn will consider coming to play for your school because he has one more year of eligibility. But the price tag is $6 million. Okay. Now the question is, they supposedly had Michigan kind of on the hook to do that, but then that all changed when they were able to convince a quarterback named Underwood from California, who was committed to LSU, to come to Michigan. They basically bought him out from under Brian Kelly and committed about a $4 million package over a couple of years for him. So they're out of the Quinn Ewers sweepstakes. Okay. They went a different direction. So that pie in the sky number of $6 million is what they're willing to take to consider it. And
do you think someone would pay it?
I don't know. There's a limited window of teams, and I don't know that Quinn Ewers has distinguished himself as a $6 million guy.
I agree with you. Right now, he ranks 60th in all football players right now in the overall draft.
Yeah,
not by position, but overall,
I can tell you there are diehard Texas fans because my radio partner Terry Quillian lives down in Dallas and getting ready to relocate to Willis, Texas, outside of Houston. She's got a lot of Texas Longhorns in the network there that said, good riddance, Quinn Ewers. They wanted Arch Manning. Especially at the goal line on 1st and goal in the last 2 minutes of the game the other night. Quinn Ewers doesn't have the skill set to power his way into the end zone. Arch Manning at 6'5". Are you telling me, Tony, 4 tush pushes, he can't get 7 inches of a carry? That's insane.
Fall forward is 2 yards, yeah.
Yeah, it was Quinn Ewers' team, so Sarkisian stuck with him, and so I'm kind of digressing, but the point is, I don't think he's going to get that from anybody. I think Carson Beck, it's an outrageous amount of money. Carson Beck had to take that deal because, and that's where the market's going up. Last year, Carson Beck demanded $2 million from Georgia to come back because that's what his agent told him he could make carrying a clipboard on the sidelines for his first couple of years in the NFL with endorsements and everything else. They thought that was the total package that he would accept. Now in 1 year, because revenues are getting to be ridiculous and because schools are now raising revenue in areas that we never thought about before, I'm sure you're aware the Auburn athletic director just sent a letter out to all of his season ticket holders. These people are paying seat licenses, quote donations, just for the privilege of buying their season
PSLs.
tickets to start with.
They got PSLs, yes, which is ridiculous. Yeah.
So you're already on the hook for thousands of dollars there and thousands of dollars for your seats. But now he's saying, to be competitive, we're going to have to jack up our prices a little bit for you in both the donation area and season tickets. So expect a price increase announcement in the coming days, because we've got to get in a position where we can spend more.
And how many games they win this year?
They won 4.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Actually, they won 5. I'm sorry. I'm taking one away from them. Sorry, Auburn. But the bottom line is, we had a long discussion yesterday, Terry and David Sears and I, on my show the morning after, about all of this craziness and what you're just describing. The real loser in all this is the fans themselves. We did an earlier show this year that you'll appreciate of me railing against the stupid cupcake games and how pointless they are and what a big waste of time they are for everybody. And we had back-to-back callers that say, look, the only games I can afford to take my family to, thank God for those games, because my son would never get to go to an Alabama game, or I could never have the experience that I had as a kid, why I love the Crimson Tide, or put in whatever team you want. Those games enable a regular fan to go, because now the regular fan, from the parking and the concessions and all the money it takes to just go to a single game, let alone be a season ticket holder, are priced completely out of the realm now. And Tony, eventually that's going to kill the golden goose. That they're stabbing this unbelievable gift of the expansion and the explosion of the popularity of college football with numerous punctures that are eventually gonna kill it, because if you take away the fan experience, you're not going to have the legacy fans anymore, because a kid watching the game with his dad on his TV now has his tablet and his phone, and he's not really watching the game and getting that lifelong commitment. I can remember the first college football. Well, my dad started taking me to Redskin games, and way to go Commanders, by the way, last night, one of their first playoff games since I think the Joe Theismann era. But that's how I was introduced to football, and the passion and the excitement and the buzz of going to a game to this day doesn't equal the experience. I've got a home theater here. I've been absolute comfort watching every game under the sun, but it doesn't compare to me to the game experience. But I don't, experience that very much anymore. And I worry about the future of the sport, because it's all about these schools having money to make money, and by generating more revenue. You mentioned Texas and Texas A&M. Terry has pointed out to me that there's so much land that's state owned in Texas that's in the oil exploration business, that they divvy all that money up to all kinds of entities at the end of the year, including the 2 big state universities, Texas A&M and Texas University. They get just some ridiculous amount of money, hundreds of millions of dollars given to the universities, and those schools have allocated a lot of that to their sports and athletic departments. Yeah. They're not told how to spend it. They're not buying. They're not building necessarily new chemistry labs. They're upgrading facilities, but a lot of that money is going into this. So if you have money to spend, you're going to be able to make money, but eventually the economic model is going to collapse, because they are pricing the regular fan completely out of the equation.
Is it going to make a difference down the road that you've got $20 million to spend on, I think, Ohio State's? People are being open about it. They were open about it. They actually said we spent $20 million on our football team this year on paying our players. I mean, they're being wide open. It's so wild to hear an athletic director say, yeah, we're up at about $30 million for 2025. So, we need to back it up a little bit. But we had Boise State in the mix. We had Cincinnati in the mix a couple of years ago. Now, that was a different situation. We had Arizona State. Year in and year out, sometimes you got a Minnesota Twins or a Cincinnati Reds team that gets in, that payroll just absolutely sucks. Then you got like Oakland A's, where they actually play up to their payroll. We see it in the National Football League all the time. The Green Bay Packers, that's not a big town. It's not a big city. It's a small city. They get it done. They're run by their fan base. I guess what I'm saying is, can I expect the Notre Dames and the Ohio States of the world? And by the way, Notre Dame was not on this list because they're a privately run school, so they're not going to tell anybody what kind of money they make. They're still playing.
And they've got money coming out their ears anyway.
Gosh, they're still paying Charlie Weiss.
The tuition to go to Notre Dame is just, it's just like the Ivy League.
They just send around the collection basket. It's Catholic money. There's all the money in the world. They sell a little land over in Ireland and it kicks back to Notre Dame. I know this for a fact. I was an altar boy for 9 years.
Yep.
So I guess what I'm asking is I thought this first 12-team playoff, I thought it went pretty well. I don't think I was excited that we had 12 teams in the mix. Was I surprised by the 2 teams that made it in? Notre Dame a little bit, not so much Ohio State. So I think we kind of got what we expected there. Did we think Boise State was going to make it all the way to a national championship? No. But they made it. They made it. And so it gives these little guys a shot. And I guess I'm asking the question. I mean, when you ultimately do it, you got to win the football game, right? You play to win the game, right? And what he said. I mean, you get on the football field, and on any given night, it's a game of inches. You can get the turnover when you don't expect it, and you can actually win a football game you're not supposed to. And so it is 5-6 years down the road when we're talking about paying teams $50, $60, $70 million. Does that mean that we're just going to have the blue bloods just running roughshod through the schedule every year and no one's going to have a shot?
Maybe even worse than that, because what you're going to get is you're going to get these economic giants, these schools that have access to so much revenue from their fan bases, from their support systems, whether it's the Texas oil money or the Catholic emptying some of the collection baskets on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And of course, the passion in the SEC, who are already shaking down their fan bases for more and more money. I heard a podcaster that I listened to a lot, a Tennessee guy, a UT guy, saying, folks, it's just going to be up to us. We got to come up with a lot more money for our program. Ohio State spent $20 million. We only spent $6 million this year. We got to get up into that same range. Well, when you get up to that same range, then all of a sudden it's going to be $35 million and $40 million and $50 million. And there's only a handful of schools that can be on that level. You talk about Mark Ingram. I'm sure he said this to you. Mark is enough of a realist and a guy who understands the landscape. Mark knows that ultimately the UABs of the world, the Boise States of the world, they're going to be on the outside looking in some kind of lesser division if they want to continue to play football, because the only direction, Tony, this can go is this elite super conference NFL type model. And I use this all the time. I think I even said it on TV recently. The guy who was actually in the sports business, is a sports guy in Atlanta, told me in a gathering we had a couple months ago. He said, "Well, college football is just like the professional model now." And I said, "No, it's not. The professional football has economic responsibility, Brenton. The rookie contracts for quarterbacks, as you just mentioned, is at a certain level. As you said, you've got to prove you're worthwhile for the big sweet dollars. In college, that's not the case. And also in the NFL, you're not a free agent every minute of every day. You enter into a contractual agreement. We're going to pay you this much money, and you're going to be duty bound under this organization for the next 3 years. College football, it's not for 3 minutes. If you get pissed off and somebody insults you, or a coach doesn't kiss your ass like you think you should be appropriately administered to, you can say, okay, that's it, I'm out of here. Or as we saw this year, amazingly, after week 3, you had about 50 players across the country just up and quit their program
after week 3
because they were promised, according to them, a sum of money that had not been delivered, and basically said, either I get my $200,000 this week or I'm not playing anymore. Yep. And the reason it was week 3 is because if they play one more game in week 4, they burn their redshirt year for that year and lose a year of eligibility. And like you said, right now, it's actually more financially lucrative if you're a top-notch player to play more college football. Look at Carson Beck. He gets to go to Miami now. His girlfriend then transferred there. She's playing for the Miami basketball team. She's already considered like Yoko Ono in Athens because they blame her for all Carson's behavioral and personality issues. Showed up.
Have you seen that guy and have you seen that girl? He did okay.
Oh yeah, I saw you 6'3" and whatever. But Carson rolls up in his Lamborghini wearing a purple suit to a Georgia home game in Athens, Georgia. That sticks out like a sore thumb. Who is this guy? Mm-hmm. This is our quarterback. But I mean, look what a life they're going to have this year in Coral Gables. The quarterback and a basketball star and glamorous people and God only knows what he's going to be driving. But for $4 million, would you rather do that or get drafted by the Cleveland Browns and be standing on the sidelines in 14-degree weather carrying a clipboard around? I'll take Miami, thank you.
I'll take Miami all day long, and I'll take the extra cash. And people are like, it's a money grab. You're damn right it's a money grab. That's what you go to college for. That's what you're playing football for. You're not playing football. You love the game, but you're playing football. For every guy like a Carson, there's also like a Trent Richardson, who, by the way, went into the league, got himself a really big, fat contract, played 2 years and said, I'm done. I'm finished. Yeah. He could go play for the Falcons right now, but he's like, I'm good. I got my money. He goes, why would I want to beat my body up? I'm not doing it. And a lot of people are like, don't you love the game? He's like, I love the money. I love playing the game for the money, but I'm not going to do that.
You could see Trent's, the transformation he made from college to the pros, where he really started getting paid. It was like, I mean, I'm getting my money now. I've busted my ass to get here. I'm not going to bust my ass anymore. Nope. And it was his motivation, and and again, this isn't diminishing him. It's kind of human nature, but fans are like outraged that a guy's not given everything he's got. But it's easy for them to say they're not getting clobbered by. Look at this Jack Sawyer guy for Ohio State, Tony, 6'5", 240 pounds, and can run like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's what you're asking a guy like Trent Richardson to subject himself to. 11 of those monsters chasing you around and literally pounding you into submission into the turf. No, thank you.
That one play just got him in the first round. I mean, that kid.
Oh, yeah.
And he's well spoken to. That kid was unbelievable. I didn't even know who he was until I saw that play. I was like, who is this guy? And he gets the grand slam all in one play.
And I know you appreciate this because we're seeing it more and more and more. People have the confidence now because these guys are being paid and feel like they can express themselves. Sawyer is a great example of what we're seeing in so many athletes. The first thing they're doing while the interviewers cringe wanting to recount their plays is give glory to Jesus Christ and God for delivering them and having that opportunity. And you're hearing it more and more and more from this younger generation. So there is a lot of hope there because that was so uncool to do that before, and it was discouraged. And I can bet you ESPN's wanting to cut away. They don't want to hear that on their air.
Man, I love that. I love that so much because it's just so out of the mix and so out of the realm. And when it's like first thing before we talk about anything else, I want to thank you know how I am about that stuff, man.
Jaden Daniels last night. First thing they said, Jaden, how have you been able to succeed this spectacularly? He said, I give all the glory to my Lord Jesus Christ, who's put me in this position and has given me the strength. And I mean, you didn't hear athletes talking that way 3 or 4 years ago. So this new generation, I think there's great hope. If faith and spirituality come back to this country, I mean, America was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and you had this kind of transformation group wanting to turn away from all the things that our foundations are. So at the end of the day, there's some hope there. But from an economic standpoint, until college football, until leadership, I like the senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, who always has a bunch of great one-line zingers. Doesn't sound anything like the original John Kennedy, but Charlie Baker, and this sizes it all up, Tony. Charlie Baker is the new president of the NCAA. He was the former governor of Massachusetts. He is 100% in that job for one reason, so he can go to Washington because he was a politician with his hat in his hand and beg Congress for solutions to all these problems in college football. And it's so indicative. The NCAA got us into this mess by completely ignoring ignoring the inevitability and the certainty that the courts were eventually going to rule in favor of the players. We're in a free enterprise system, and for years it was just it was like some indentured servitude student athletes. Oh, they can't be compensated. You can't even buy them lunch because that's a benefit that they're getting that nobody else is. And all of a sudden the door swung completely the other direction. So Charlie Baker's up on Capitol Hill talking about all the problems of the NCAA. And John Kennedy says, Mr. Baker, I think what I'm going to do as soon as we finish here is go up to my office and get on Amazon and order you a spine so you can install that and develop some leadership skills and some vision on doing what your job is supposed to be. And that just says it all. The Greg Sankeys, the Tony Petittis, the commissioners of these leagues, they need to not look to Congress to solve their problems. They just got clobbered with billions of dollars in settlements to lawsuits of people that felt like they were unfairly treated, former athletes, and that Pandora's box is never going to be shut until they get some structure in their own sport. And once again, the Golden Goose is not going to survive if there's not leadership and people taking charge. But to answer your ultimate question with that very long-winded soliloquy, I shudder and fear for the UABs and the Boise States. Boise State was the third seed in this tournament, according to the committee. Yeah. And guess what? They were by far the longest shot of the 12 teams in Vegas, the only entity who really tells the truth and assesses the teams on the basis of what they really are. Boise State was like a three-legged horse in the Kentucky Derby. They gave them no chance to win the national championship.
But they get to hang a banner.
Yeah,
and they're hanging a banner. They're hanging a banner.
But how much of that is inclusion as opposed to merit? We got to give the little guy a chance. We got to have the underdog in the mix, and the underdog in the mix is great. In NCAA basketball, it's fantastic, but for football, I don't think that's the way to go.
You know what it is? It's like when my brother had a really hot date, and I used to bang him up all the time about taking me to the drive-in because I wanted to go to the drive-in. He's like, yeah, I'll take you to the drive-in, but he made me sit in the trunk.
Yeah, right.
He'll take me to the movie, but I ain't gonna see the movie, and that's what a lot of these little teams are gonna do. They're gonna be invited, but they ain't gonna see anything. But at least they get a chance to go see the flick. But they're gonna be sitting in the back seat while they make out in the front seat. Great stuff, my friend. We'll do it again coming up on Saturday. It is going to be Championship Saturday, where we break down everything about the big ball game going on in college football. Ohio State, Notre Dame. Should be huge. ABC 3340, and of course a cast of all kinds of fantastic shows you do right here on Tony Kurre Radio and wherever you are with us on Jocks and Jocks 94.5, Talk 99.5. You're all over the place. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Tony, always a pleasure.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.